Everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers bully Victor Wembanyama and beat the Spurs 118-116. A big win. We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how, where you get your podcasts. This one's always free and never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 37,000 subscribers are all hanging out, Andy, and they are loving what they see from these Lakers, no matter who plays for them, no matter who's missing. The Lakers keep finding ways to win. No Austin Reeves in the lineup on Wednesday against the Spurs. Doesn't matter. They keep winning. 118-116 is the final score. We'll break it down in a minute, but I do need to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you have $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. A choppy game, Andy, a long game, in part because of the 946 free throws that were shot between the two teams. JJ Redick said after the game, trying very hard not to get fined. It wasn't that the game was officiated poorly. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just very different than what they were seemed to be used to. So
it was over officiated, I think would be the best way of putting it. It was not, I don't think it was over officiated or over called in either direction. As if you take a look at the box score, both teams spent an inordinate amount of time at the free throw line. You had 84 free throws between the two teams, 40 for San Antonio, 44 for the Lakers, 76 personal fouls called. Like, neither team could complain that one side was favored more than the other. They both could complain that it was very difficult to get into any type of rhythm. And for that matter, the Stars did not get the kid gloves treatment either. Luka Doncic was in foul trouble for a lot of this game, and Victor Wembanyama eventually fouled out.
Yes, only the third time in his career that Wemby has fouled out in a game. And I actually think, to some degree, I think the physicality of this game, even with all the foul calls and whatever, still served the Lakers very well. And I will get to some of the individual performances in here. But I think, to me, what stuck out was the sort of commitment that they had defensively to being very physical with Victor Wembanyama. And
Brian's internet is having some issues, so he's going to try to come back in, as you can see. But to Brian's point that he was setting up, I thought the Lakers did a very good job in this game, just bothering Victor Wembanyama, period. Whether you were talking about the different ways that they defended him, it was not a DeAndre Ayton v. Victor Wembanyama type game. I think they saw a little bit of the way Phoenix was sending sometimes smaller players, but doubles at Victor all the time. And in this particular case, whether it was often Rui or Marcus Smart or whoever, the Lakers were often just using some smaller but sturdy guys to initially bother Victor. Then they'd send a second guy over, and they were just making it very difficult for him to do anything after the initial catch. And also, too, and this was something that I thought made a big difference as the game went along. You could see in the first quarter, Victor's presence very much affected the Lakers' shot selection and some of what they were willing to do and not do. And as the game went along, they just started taking it to Wembanyama more. And I think that, as much as anything else, got to Wemby and started just getting him completely flustered and out of his comfort zone. Like, he had a few monster plays in this game, but he was outplayed very obviously by Luka Doncic, who had a 35-point near triple-double, even acknowledging the lack of shooting efficiency. But frankly, Wembanyama was outplayed by 3 or 4 other Lakers. He just was out of sorts this entire game.
And I think that is based on how they played him. And what I like about this too is like you can't. A couple guys talked about this after the game. You can't guard him with length. Like, it is very challenging to try to out-length Wemby. It's not going to work. And so you say, like, there were times when Marcus Smart was on him, and you're giving up all that hype, but it's a very physical guy. Smart drew at least one offensive foul, I think 2 against Wemby.
Smart?
Yeah.
In this game, according to my quick rundown, Marcus Smart drew 2 charges against Wemby and a blocking foul. Plus, Rui had a couple charges drawn against
Rui.
Well.
Yeah, Rui drew a couple. It's like, but that kind of thing, like just the constant pushing and nudging. Rui drew a foul late where defensively, Wemby went to the line, all that stuff. But even little things like he got underneath him when Wemby was trying to catch it at the elbow and push him out. Like, it was a foul on Rui. But just the constant contact, I think, and all that stuff really annoyed Wembanyama. And then that leads to, I think some frustration when, that led to the 6th foul. You see like that charge that Rui took, which, by the way, if you see the sort of the still frame of it, is the most bizarre looking play ever, because Wembanyama's stride is like 4 feet past Rui, but the rest of his body is still square to him. It's crazy to look at. I just find I was really impressed with how they did it. And then how every time Wembanyama went to the bench with that foul trouble issue, the Lakers went back inside. They were relentless in attacking the rim when Wemby wasn't there. I agree with you. They were more physical in the second half, less nervous about challenging him.
Well, I think especially
more
because
than anything, I loved how when he wasn't in the game, they really tried to punish the Spurs for that.
Yeah, they did. I mean, to be honest, they were not as effective taking advantage of the moments when Wemby wasn't in the game as you would have liked. Like, particularly down the stretch of the third quarter, they really did not make good use of Wemby sitting at all. There was a really big moment, though, in terms of, I think, just the consequences, because it drew Wemby's 3rd foul in the second quarter, and he had to sit for a while. But Marcus Smart drove into Wemby, drew that blocking foul. Wemby had to sit, but I think it really mattered on, like, from a psychological momentum, energy perspective for the Lakers, because it was on the heels of Wemby throwing down this monster dunk that he drove basically from the corner and went straight to the rim. Like, everything you would want to see from Wemby, like on one possession, the handle, the force, the dexterity, the reminder that, holy bleep, this guy is like 7'5". We think he might be taller. Like, that could have been a serious, like, oh my God, this is the guy we have to stop moment for the Lakers. And I think Smart, whether this was any part of the intentionality or not, Smart going right into Wemby, like on the heels of that, I think was really important, because, again, it drew his 3rd foul and made him have to sit, but it also stopped any steamrolling, like anything that the Spurs could pick up from that just monstrous dunk. It all came to just a screeching halt.
So a lot to sort of unpack in this game. We talk about the defensive effort against Wemby, and the rest of that Spurs team is a good team, and they're playing without Dylan Harper. Haven't played a game this year yet with De'Aaron Fox. So San Antonio, I know, has lost now 2 in a row after winning 5 straight to open the season. This is a really good team. They're getting Jeremy Sohan back into the lineup, and I don't think they're going anywhere in that sort of top 6, top 7, certainly in the Western Conference. So, it was really fun to see what this matchup looked like early, because I think it's going to be a significant one down the stretch. Lakers obviously playing without significant players themselves, got some, I think, timely performances from your non-Luka players, in addition to a near triple-double from Luka. So we'll break all that down next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. Nobody starts a business because they want to experience the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets, except, I guess, antisocial weirdos. And if that's your thing, look, enjoy. But for the normal people out there, it's not your thing. And that's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll and benefits and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or the hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price you get from Gusto, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time, that's gusto.com/lockedonnba.
Okay, there we go. All right, trying to fix the for those watching on YouTube, you can watch me try to make my Wi-Fi connection better in real time with some challenges. But anyway, we'll see how it goes from here. Reminder too, as well, if you are a YouTube subscriber, you can also make sure to get the show delivered to you in audio form, whether that's through Apple, whether that's through Spotify, however you get your podcasts. We are, in fact, available everywhere. And if you subscribe, the show just shows up in your feed. It's super easy. Luka, it was a challenging game for him. I think, the physicality of the game, trying to figure out what was a foul, what wasn't, especially in the first half, I think was getting real frustrated. I think we were all waiting early for the technical calls and stuff like that. But he's still remarkably productive and influential, even on a night where he shoots 9 of 27 from the floor. He did make it to the line 14 times, making 10. That kind of defrayed it a little bit, but even when he doesn't shoot well, Andy, he's still so bleeping good.
He had a 13 assist to 4 turnover ratio. So that's like 3.3 repeating pi to 1. That in and of itself helps that production. 5 steals, 2 blocks. So the guy that, the defense is always the thing that people use to detract from his greatness. 7 stocks, that's going to get it done. Plus 9 rebounds, 3 on the offensive glass. Like, Luka just did so much in this game. Like the way that he just generates so much production and makes so many different things happen. And, we've talked about before, like that ability to anticipate and play passing lanes, because, that ability to read defenses works really on both sides of the ball. You can anticipate what's going to be happening. I also thought Luka did a really good job in this game because, to your point, the fouls called against him, he kept his composure really well. Like, this, what the atmosphere of this game is one where you could picture Luka in complaining and bitching overdrive. And I don't think he really was at all. I actually thought Luka did a really good job on a night where his team needed him to stay focused of keeping it.
I think the frustration was building, but it never blew up into something that, like, I think early in the game, there was a lot, like, a lot of looking at the officials, expecting calls that weren't there, getting them sometimes when maybe it's like, wait a minute, 30 seconds ago, that wasn't like it. JJ talked after the game, like it took everybody a minute to kind of just figure out what the lines were in this game. He said it was consistently officiated, all that stuff. Again, trying to avoid fines, I think, as much as anything. But that process of feeling it out, I think, was hard for Luka. I think it frustrated him. It annoyed him. But I agree with you. As the game went on, it never boiled over into something that took him out of the game.
You know what? I just realized we're a segment and a half in, and we did not even mention yet the fact that the Lakers almost blew this game twice in the last 1.2 seconds of the game.
Yeah, true.
Seemingly with everything in hand and just needing to inbound the ball, and that's it. Marcus Smart, who, by the way, just so people understand, had a terrific game.
Played great
overall. Like Marcus Smart was a big reason that they won this thing on both sides of the ball. Especially in the second half, Marcus Smart played a really good game, made a lot of big plays, but simply inbounding the ball, stepped on the line, and I don't know what he was thinking or why.
Well, what he was trying to do was get the ball up. He saw
was rushing
Rui
himself
bleeding out up floor. He wanted to get the ball up court quickly to ice the game with a layup at the other end, and he just went too fast. You got to step all the way out. He could have done it. Could have taken his time. There was nobody within 100 feet of Hachimura.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know why he felt the need to do it as quickly and haphazardly. Then, as the Spurs were taking the ball in, or what was the sequence? Jake LaRavia fouls Keldon Johnson on what should have been just insignificant play at that moment. Like, just, you can't foul.
You can't foul. I mean, he was trying to. I mean, Johnson dove the lane, and Jake was trying to defend the play. Otherwise, you don't want to give up a layup there to tie the game. But obviously, you also don't want to foul. You want to, the worst thing that can happen there is an and one. The second worst thing is a foul on the shot. And he sends in the line. And you're like, oh, Keldon Johnson misses the first one. What was there, like half a second left in the game? It looks good.
Yeah. This is a game that I want to make it clear. I am not accusing anybody of anything, but this is the type of game that could lead to Adam Silver launching another investigation into sports gambling and Congress convening again. Like they just convened earlier on Wednesday to discuss this stuff. This game could lead to another meeting on Thursday. Like, it was so inexplicable the way the Lakers handled the last 1.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think anything was up. I am not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, if something was up and they realized at the last second, oh my God, we need to change the outcome, this is how you do it.
Well, yeah, right. And by the way, it was Champagny, wasn't it, at the end of the game, as opposed to Keldon Johnson? Yeah, it was Champagny who missed the free throw.
Yes, it was.
But
like, excuse me, you're correct.
When Champagny missed the free throw, they had to do the intentional miss, thing that like never works with half a second left. And they actually did get the rebound and managed to get a shot up. So yeah, it was a crazy end to a game. But like, I want to save the third segment and devote that to DeAndre Ayton, who was just outstanding in this game. But you had a sequence, and JJ referenced this. Rui actually missed 2 gimmies at the bucket, layups that he didn't convert, and then stepped back and made just a clutch jumper. And that's just the kind of thing and that he did. Like, he did not have a monster statistical night, but he just makes he's been making shots, especially when they really matter, and doesn't get the ball a ton. And that was the part that Redick emphasized at the end of the game, just how good he is for a guy who isn't constantly touching the ball.
He still has yet to play a game where he shoots below 50% overall from the field. This game, 5 of 9 overall, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. And as mentioned earlier, he made a lot of really good defensive plays. He had the very difficult assignment of having to be part of the Wembanyama defense. And James Worthy and Robert Horry and Geeter were talking about on the Spectrum Sportsnet post game. Like, Rui's a really strong dude. And, he is, for a matchup like Wembanyama, obviously he doesn't have the length, but nobody does. But what Rui does have that I think works for something like this, and it felt like kind of emblematic of how the Lakers were looking to deal with a lot of Wemby, period. He's got a good combination of strength and agility and quickness. And you have to find some way to bother Wembanyama. And like I mentioned, there's hardly anybody in the league that can even attempt to use length. And certainly Rui isn't one of them, but he's got these other elements that he uses well. And, going back to the series against Denver, when he did as well in single coverage as anybody can reasonably do against Nikola Jokic, one of the things Rui does pretty well is if he is ISO'd against a proper matchup and not like a guard that clearly is just going to beat him off the dribble and he can't do anything about that, Rui can be pretty effective in those assignments.
Yeah, for sure. And, and I think the biggest thing too is they've gotten better at understanding how he can be most effectively used defensively and trying to avoid putting him in spots where he's going to suffer for it. And then I think Rui's attention to detail on that side of the ball is just better than it was when he arrived in LA. And he was playing in Washington. Not exactly noted for its consistent dedication to fundamentals and things like that and structure. And I think he was willing when he got to LA, but he had never really been expected to do those things. And it took a little time to kind of build it up to the level that a team like the Lakers needs it to be. And so I agree with you. He's gotten a lot better. Another guy who's performing incredibly well is DeAndre Ayton. And there were a lot of skeptics, Andy, when the Lakers picked him up as to how successful this whole thing would be. Ayton had 22 points on Wednesday, very efficient from the floor. He had 10 rebounds. He had a pair of blocks. He was great. And it continues a very strong early season run for him. We'll get to it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back. Hell yes, it is. And the Lakers seem to be back. There is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And here's what's awesome. Even if you miss the start of a game or you just want to ride a hot hand as the game's going on, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks, which, by the way, would have been nice tonight as the Lakers mounted one of their own. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every single game exciting, especially when your team, the Lakers, are making that late push like they did in this game tonight against the Spurs. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your first game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Okay, so one fun thing to note here, Andy, we've talked about some of the challenges the Lakers have had from a scheduling standpoint, playing a lot of games without a lot of their best players. This next stretch that they enter is pretty good. You look at it and it's they have the Hawks on Saturday. Trae Young is out for Atlanta, so there's something there. They play
they've been playing some pretty good basketball. They've been playing some pretty good basketball without him.
That's true, but it's even the Hawks are a beatable team. You have the Hornets on Monday. They're terrible. They just lost to the Pelicans. I mean, my God. The Thunder, or it might have been the Nets, I think it was. They lost to someone terrible. Okay, then you go play the Thunder. Then you get the Pelicans. You see the Jazz twice between now and Thanksgiving. So the Lakers have stolen some games, Andy, against good teams. I don't even say stolen. At this point, you can just say they're beating good teams and earning it. But they've taken some games that maybe people wouldn't have expected to take, missing some of the players that they've been missing. And now they get actually to play some of the lesser teams in the league over the next 6 or 7 games. So it's a real opportunity to run this record out. One guy will help them do that, DeAndre Ayton, another outstanding game.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass, 2 blocks, and a steal. And there were a lot of plays that DeAndre Ayton kept alive. Like he has 4 offensive rebounds listed, but there were at least a couple others where I'm not sure if he got the credit or not for the tap out. Like, for example, there was a big play in the fourth quarter where DeAndre tapped out. I want to say it was a missed 3 by Luka from the corner, and it ended up going to Marcus Smart, and Smart drove straight through the lane and got a layup. I think the offensive rebound credit actually went to Smart because he's ultimately the one that controlled it. But Ayton was the guy that actually kept the thing alive and kept the possibility of it alive. Like there was another play in the first quarter where Luka got a second chance step back 3. Ayton another time, and the first original miss was off a Luka, I believe, step back. He kept the ball alive, and that was between 2 Spurs, one of whom was Wembanyama. So it's just one of the big detractions against Ayton his whole career has been lack of motor. And even as a guy who has averaged 10 rebounds or more his entire career, he's just been seen as a guy that doesn't necessarily, I guess, put in the work to get those boards. They just fall to him, or he sees them as part of his counting stats, so he cares, whatever. That stuff may all be true. I don't care, though. I care about what he does here. DeAndre Ayton's effort for the Lakers and his activity and his motor, other than, I think, the opening game against the Warriors, where it felt like he was, frankly, just trying to stay out of everybody's way and not step on toes and show that he was being a good soldier, like almost too much of an extreme. Yeah. Dude's been working. He's been consistently working when he's out there.
What I think is really constructive here is, like, I think we talked about this for Wednesday's show. Like, the Lakers have benefited to some degree. You don't want guys to miss games, but there are certain upsides to giving certain players bigger opportunities to be involved all the time and relied upon and stuff. And I think Ayton has been one of those guys. Like, he has been a frontline player while LeBron is out, certainly for the games where LeBron and Luka were missing. You take away, Reeves from some of these games, and like, they've needed Ayton to be more than, give us some defensive energy. Like, they need him to be the full player that he can be. And I think the opportunity to do that, like you said, because he was sort of deferential in that first game. And I think even the first quarter of the second game, until he kind of got going, it puts him in this space that allows him to really feel like he can go do all of the stuff that he like. Not only that, he's like, they need him. He's needed to do that stuff. I just think, like, you and I were both very optimistic about what Ayton could do for this team. And, I think this is something I want to talk about a little bit more tomorrow, but I'm pleased that they're getting so much of sort of the high end of what we thought we could get. I'm not surprised, though, that Ayton is performing like this. I'm happy about it, but I'm not at all surprised.
We talked about this a lot in his introductory press conference. DeAndre Ayton, he didn't just say all the right things. he was very open about how playing essentially meaningless basketball for the last few years of his NBA career, like meaningless in the sense that his teams weren't going anywhere, and he knew that. And obviously there's still an onus on him to be a professional. You're getting paid a lot of money to be out there. And the fact that these games, I'm sure by December or January, felt like you were just punching a clock towards eventually getting eliminated from the playoffs and your season ending in April, for a guy that's been to the NBA finals, that has to feel disheartening. But at the same time, you have responsibilities. I'm not trying to absolve Ayton from any of that. But he said during his introductory press conference, like, you realize that can be taken from you. He has also said he realizes he's not seen as a winning basketball player, and it bothers him. Like, it bothers him what's been said about him. And, you actually, during media day, asked him about his reputation as somebody with a low motor who doesn't necessarily care about doing all the things that leads to winning. He just cares about his numbers. And in talking about it, he didn't get defensive at all.
No, not at all.
Like, he actually just acknowledged, I know what it is. I essentially can only do the right things moving forward. I'm excited to do the right things moving forward. I'm excited to be a part of this team. And, there are still obviously 73 games to go, and who knows what things are going to look like in December and January and onward. But thus far, he seems to recognize, whether because he enjoys winning, he enjoys the atmosphere, reputation revival, the opportunity to make more money moving, whatever. He's doing all the things you'd want from him right now.
And I think it's beneficial too. He comes here not like Lakers. The only people like that seemed to be excited by this in the offseason were Lakers fans. It was the broader NBA sort of community, whether fans or media types or whatever, who were looking at this and being like, DeAndre Ayton, really, guys? This criticism, that criticism, all the stuff that you listed that are all like legitimate. Like, he's a flawed player. Like, even he had a couple free throws today, Wednesday night, that came in the bonus. He's not like a physical player inside. Doesn't get to the line very much. It's not that he's a perfect player in every way, but for Lakers fans in LA, we looked at it like, oh my God, what an upgrade. Like, I said it, I must have said it 1,000 times over the summer. Like, even if they get the version of Ayton that his detractors think he's going to be here, he still represents a massive upgrade over what they had at the end of the season. And you still take Jackson Hayes and you put him into a backup role that is far better suited for him. And
he's doing
well. Becomes a better. Jack's played a nice game on Wednesday. He becomes a better player. Like, everything about this was going to benefit the Lakers, even if they got the worst version of Ayton. And they're getting I don't know if this is the best, but like, they're getting something far closer to that. I just think it helps that he comes here and he's not, expected to be the number one pick. He's expected to be a big upgrade and a big part of this team, but nobody expects him to or needs him to be, the first selection of whatever draft that was. That ship has sailed. It doesn't matter here.
It was the draft with Luka, but
I know, but I don't know the.
No. I just meant it. It's the draft that everybody remembers, the one with Luka, where he should have been
right,
the number one overall pick.
There was a funny moment on the ESPN broadcast for people who were watching that when Richard Jefferson asked, who was DeAndre Ayton taken ahead of at number one, and they replied, well, everyone. Like, everybody trying to avoid the obvious Luka setup, but it was funny. But yeah, all of this helps him, I think, significantly. All right, well, anyway, so it's
been a great start.
Lakers are getting ready to hit the road here a little bit, and they do so with a great deal of confidence. They'll try to get Austin Reeves back on the floor. They got a couple days. before they play again. So plenty to be excited about, plenty to be happy about. Locked On Lakers on YouTube. So we can go hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. We'll see everyone tomorrow.